They're not my kids and not my problem. Original post. About a month ago, I found out both of my children were the results of my soon-to-be ex-wife's affairs. I've had a feeling for a while now that both of them were not mine. 6 years ago when my son was born, I was the happiest I had been in my entire life. I had married my best friend, we had a child together, and everything seemed amazing. That was until he started getting older. After a few years, I started to have doubts that he was actually mine. He did not look like my child, and the more he started to grow, the more I realized just how different he looked compared to what I would expect a child of mine to look like. I am not petty or paranoid enough to let that alone drive me. It was my loose woman of a wife that really set my alarms off. Whenever she went out, she never went where she said she did. She would have huge holes in her schedule that she could never explain to me. She would refuse to allow me to interact with anyone from her workplace, and a close friend of hers accused her of flirting with her significant other at the time. It did not help that soon after our son was born, her lies started to catch up with her. Still though, I loved her like the fool I was. She told me up and down how much she loved me whenever one of her lies caught up with her. She had convinced me that despite the fact she was a lying and manipulative woman, that she wasn't a lying, manipulative cheat. Last year, she got pregnant again, and I still held out a small bit of hope that it was mine. But when her daughter was born, it was obvious she was mixed race. I refused to sign the birth certificate, and the paternity test I demanded afterwards proved my suspicions right all along, that neither of them are mine. The day I got those test results were the day I filed for divorce from my ex and walked away from the family I had created. I knew that it would destroy her son's life to see me walk out, because despite my concerns, I was the best dad I could be to him. I loved him with all my heart and put in 110% into being the father he deserved. Now though, when I see him, I am filled with disgust. Disgust for my horrible ex, disgust with myself for not trusting my instincts, and disgust that the last 6 years of my life have been for nothing. I have been told by multiple people now that I am a monster for leaving my son like this. My ex has tried on multiple occasions since I moved out to use him to guilt me into getting back with her. She will have him call me at random hours of the night, crying and begging for his daddy to come back. The day I moved out, she paraded him into the room as I packed my things to show me how much damage I am doing. In every conversation that he has brought up, both online and off, I am berated and shamed. That despite the fact I am not the boy's biological father, I am his dad. What I have sadly now realized is that, to most people, my own feelings mean nothing. My parents are my only supporters through all this, because even my own siblings call me a despicable person for abandoning a child like that. My feelings of betrayal and sadness mean nothing, because a child is involved. I know it is not his fault. I know that the man he called his father for his entire life just walked away. But why am I expected to man up? Why should I have to pretend everything is fine, and that I do not feel contempt for this entire situation? Why should I put my own life and feelings aside? I never was the boy's father. I loved him like one, and honestly still do, but I would come to hate and contempt him if I had to play that role. Then hate myself for not standing up and taking my own life back into my own hands. He is not my child, and even though it is not his fault, he is not my problem anymore. Now for the top comments. This story is crazy, and the same thing happened to my dad about 30 years ago. He was married for a bit to a woman, had a son he was sure was his. She later gave birth to a girl and he was certain that the girl wasn't his. Got a paternity test on both kids, found out both were not his. He tried to keep parenting the boy for a while, but lost touch when his ex completely lost custody of both kids due to substance use, and the kids went with grandparents. Such a crazy story with so much pain. I've only heard this from my mom though. My dad has never volunteered this information up himself. It's actually surprisingly common for women to commit paternity fraud. France made it illegal for a man to get a paternity test without the consent of his wife. The official reasoning is very telling. Paternity tests were banned in France 15 years ago. If French customs intercept DNA samples or results in the mail, the perpetrators in theory risk up to a year in prison and a €15,000 fine. The French Council of State upheld the law on May 6th, saying it did not want to upset the French regime of filiation and that the intent of lawmakers was to preserve the peace of families. Who lies more, men or women? Men lie the most, but women tell the biggest lies. A man's lie is "I'm at Tony's house." A woman's lie is "it's your baby." Chris Ruck. Fun fact, in California, if you marry or are with someone with a child born prior to your relationship, and while together you hold out, that child is yours. Even though you know the child is not, if you later separate, you can be responsible for providing child support based upon the fact that you held yourself out to be that child's father. Source: I'm a family law attorney in California. New Jersey is the same. There was a story I read where a woman left her husband for the man who turned out to be the biological father of their kids, and still, he had to pay child support. Under New Jersey law, the children belonged to the married couple regardless of paternity. The law was passed in the 19th century to protect the children from the stigma of being bastards. This hurt my heart to read this. My gut reaction as a mother was to tell you it's not the child's fault, and so on. And it's not. But what is me not telling you to try and daddy those kids is your ex's reactions. She clearly had every intention of using those kids against you, to try and guilt you and therefore control you. What an evil, awful woman. Your siblings are wrong. There's no happy ending here. It's not some made-for-TV movie. Get away from her and cut all contact. Block her. Get a new phone number if need be. Man, this is a gut punch of a story. I can just imagine the looks on those faces in the delivery room when the second came along. Your ex-wife sounds like complete trash and you're better off. I hate that the 6-year-old is the casualty, but you didn't victimize him. She did. Exactly. OP did nothing wrong. My heart breaks for that little boy, but his mother did this to him, not OP. As a child that came from a marital affair, your feelings are valid. My mom was married to this dude we'll call Jack, and they had my sister. Eventually, my mom cheated on Jack with my dad and got pregnant with me, and Jack didn't find out until I was born, and it was obvious that he wasn't my dad. He had basically black hair while my mom has brown and I was born blonde. He got a DNA test done, and once he found out, he left. He told my sister and my family that he couldn't look at me without being reminded I wasn't his child, and that my mom cheated on him. I was too young to remember them being divorced, I just remember missing him. I also don't remember how my sister took it, but I'll say this, I'd rather my mom and Jack get a divorce than them staying together, fueling the fire of a relationship that was drowning in unhappiness and resentment. It was the best choice for everyone in the situation in the long term. Edit to add, my dad's situation has always been a place of animosity and apathy in my life, and I'm glad I was able to talk about it here and potentially help someone who has a situation similar to my family's. I wanted to add this in case OP sees. The reason it was a place of animosity and apathy was not because of their divorce. It was because I have never had any sort of relationship with my dad, and my mom never told me who he was. It seems like you truly care for these kids, and I very much doubt they will feel the way I did in the future. Also, yes everyone, I know how genetics work and that it would be possible for me to be blonde if Jack was my father. There are other factors that contributed to him eventually getting me tested that combined with the aforementioned that led him there. Please stop trying to give me a biology lesson in the comments, it's appreciated but not needed. And now for the update. Wow, this post certainly blew up. Guess airing my dirty laundry accomplished something. Anyway, I've seen a few common questions, so I'll just answer them here. 1. Her son knows the truth of why I left. I sat down and told him that I am not his father, and that his mother lied to me and cheated on me. I made it clear I am not mad at him, that it is not his fault this is happening, and no matter what, I will still think he's an amazing kid. 2. Some are saying that I never loved him, or was always looking for a way out. It's hard to convey emotions in a text post like this, and even harder to allow vitriolic hatred towards your loose wife decontextualize the last 6 years of your life. You can believe what you want though. 3. I have a lawyer, and I'm not going to be paying child support or alimony. Last though, for those who say I should stay in her son's life and be his father. That's not realistically possible. I do not hate him, but I have been cheated on, lied to, and used by a vile self-centered woman who has now caught her children up in her lies and deceit. He is a casualty of her actions and blameless. However, it can never change the fact of the harsh reality we find ourselves in. I don't hate him, I feel so sad when I think about how he feels. But all I see when I look at him is 6 years of my life I was lied to. 6 years of my life I was used. And 6 long years of built-up doubts and frustrations with a woman who used me. There is no putting aside my hatred to try and be in his life, because the life I lived with him was nothing more than a facade cultivated by his mother. This is the harsh reality I find myself dealing with, and I simply cannot in good faith put myself or him through it anymore. Edit 2. Since I am seeing many armchair lawyers in the comments saying this post is fake on grounds of what I said above, I will not reveal what state I live in, but I am currently going through a fun legal process called disestablishment of paternity. Won't shut up 90% of you who think Google makes you a lawyer, but at least I tried. Edit 3. This is going to be my last edit before I move on from this small little distraction I created for myself. First, I want to thank everyone for their kind words to me, in the comments, the DMs, and the chat. You have given me a bright day for the first time in a while. I wish I could reply to all of you, but I cannot thank you enough. Secondly, I have noticed many people criticizing the word I used very profusely to describe my soon-to-be ex. I want to just say that the place I am now is one of the darkest I have been in my life. I see nothing but white-hot rage for the woman who ruined my life. Is what I said inappropriate? Is the word I used to describe her dehumanizing and vile? Yes, I will admit that. But I won't apologize for it. What I wrote here today was the truth of the world as it is for me right now. It is the raw, unadulterated stream of consciousness of a flawed man. I do not intend to try and get people to hate women or to push some vile message about how women are terrible. That is not my goal here, and that is not the message of this post. I understand why people do not like the word I used here. And you know what? I accept that as a valid criticism of what I did here today. I came here today to simply find some outlet for the situation I find myself in. To rant, mourn, and deal with the complex and raw emotions that have torn me apart for the last month. A place where I can freely speak my mind. And you know what? I did that. Today was pretty alright thanks to you guys. Again, to everyone who showed me love and support, thank you from the bottom of my flawed heart. To those who came here disagreeing with me but showed me respect, thank you as well. After the shame and ridicule I face in my real life, the respect you showed me despite your disagreement was nice. So long, and thanks for all the fish. Now for the last story. My brother's flight got delayed 30 minutes and I'm terrified to tell my wife. Plus update. Let me explain. I haven't seen my brother in 2 years. He is coming to stay in the town I live in for a few days for work and has plans of staying at my house for one night of his several-night stay. We plan on getting a drink, a bite to eat, then head back to my place to chill for a few. My wife is very abusive, manipulative, and controlling. She has spent the last few days berating me for seeing my brother as it goes against her evil agenda of trying to separate me from anyone and everyone I love. She has been making comments about how messed up it is that I expect her to put 2 kids to bed tonight by herself. Her compromise is that I get home by 11 and help her with the kids if they aren't already asleep. I've obviously been pushing back on this since she is a grown woman and can handle putting the kids to bed by herself once, because remember, I haven't seen my bro in 2 years. His flight getting delayed 30 minutes delays my plans 30 minutes, and I will be mistreated and berated for it. I hate it. I'm terrified of this evil witch, but I feel so stuck. Now for the top advice before reading the little update. I think you should divorce. This is what I must do. Reading responses and facing some hard truths are giving me some confidence and reaffirming how messed up my situation is. You absolutely need to leave this toxic woman. She's unhealthy for you and your kids. Life is too short. Wishing you a future of happiness. Enjoy the time with your brother. And don't worry about her. Stand up for yourself until you manage to GTFO. Thank you for the kind words. When you do leave, do not let her know you'll be leaving. A lot of DV crimes happen when the victim tries to leave. I know you can't leave immediately, so in the meantime document as much as you can. Keep a detailed journal of every occurrence and act of mistreatment, whether it be some small verbal remark or a physical attack, with a date, time, and as much detail as you can remember. If your state allows one-party consent recordings, then voice record as much as possible. I assume you want full custody of the kids. This is your best way to get that since it is so rare for fathers, assuming you're a man, to get custody of their kids. I know you may not think she will fight for the kids or try to end you, but there was a time when you never thought she would mistreat you. Do not trust her. Document as much as you can, and have a game plan to get out. Speak with an attorney privately to get your affairs in order. I hope this works out the best for you. I'm so sorry you're in this situation. She is scary, wrong, not all there in the head, mistreating you, and more. You aren't crazy. She is. Be careful and take care of yourself and your kids. Lawyer up, bro. Document everything. Call the cops on her if she freaks out again and file a police report. Work with your therapist and lawyer on crafting a case for full custody. Make an action plan to move with the kids back closer to your family or support system. Make a plan and then stick to the plan. When she blows up and tries to bring the kids in, call the cops or create alternate response via therapist and lawyer. You got this. Get organized and take your life back. Thank you for the support. This post is getting a lot of eyes, and it's the most confidence I've had in a while. I suggest that you fart in your hand and wave it in her face. This is a strong contender for my response to her. Sounds like you're gonna have fallout from having your brother visit either way. May as well enjoy yourself and make it as worthwhile as possible. Little update. Thank you to everyone for the kind words and support. I knew this wasn't normal behavior but needed to hear it. And the people have spoken. My wife is BPD, possibly narcissistic, and is very extreme in her responses to anything she doesn't like or agree with. Because of this, I have slowly been conditioned to let her have her way and mistreat me. It happens so subtly and right under my nose. Harm against men is real, and I can't believe I let it get this far. I have taken steps toward a divorce, but pulling the trigger on it has been hard. The idea of not seeing my kids every day is terrifying. But as many have pointed out, they'll be better off to get away from this environment. As for the people who told me to grow a pair or man up, I get it. And you're right, there is a responsibility on my part to establish boundaries. But the consequences of attempting to do that at this point include her attempting to get me fired, trashing my office, and so on. She goes there. And I'm working closely with a therapist to navigate my way out with minimal collateral damage. Thank you to everyone who direct messaged me as well. Thanks again all.